People picture a man getting scared, making up his mind, and just running. That sounds simple until you put him inside the line. He is not standing in open space with room to pivot. He is pressed in among shields, shoulders, elbows, spear shafts, and the weight of other men trying not to give an inch key. At that point, leaving is not really a decision first. It is a movement problem. Before he can run, he has to do something as basic as turn his body, and even that is awkward. His shield is already up where it has to be. His feet are not planted for a clean spin. They are making little adjustments in whatever patch of ground they can still feel. A lot of the time, he cannot even move his arms freely. He can jab, brace, lift a little, recover a little. That is the kind of motion the line allows. Full body movement is another matter. If his shield overlaps with the man beside him, and that man is doing the same, there is barely enough room for ordinary fighting, let alone for one man to peel himself out. So fear has this irritating effect in there. A man may badly want to get away, but his body still stays where it is because the first part of running is physically harder than staying braced. Standing and pushing can feel more possible than trying to untangle yourself. Then suppose he actually tries. The first thing he has to do is ruin his own protection. He has to lower his shield a little, or shift it offline, or twist sideways. The moment he does that, he is no longer facing the enemy the way he was a heartbeat earlier. That is where the trouble starts fast. The front of him had cover. His side does not. His back certainly does not. If he turns, even halfway, parts of him that were hidden in the wall suddenly are not hidden anymore. He has not gained any real distance yet, but he has already made himself easier to hit. And people beside him notice right away. They do not need a speech or a signal. They can feel it in the shields. A rim drops. A shoulder angle changes. The neat overlap they were leaning into goes loose for an instant. And that instant is enough to make everyone on that side react. Now the man is in a bad spot. He has started the motion of escape, but he is still stuck in the same strip of ground. He is half-turned, less covered and not clear of anybody. So the attempt creates danger before it creates space. Then he runs into the next problem, which is his own side. People behind him are not standing politely waiting to let him out. Rear ranks are pushing up, crowding in, adding force to the men in front. That pressure travels through bodies. A man on the front line can feel his own people still driving him forward while he is trying to pull back. So when he leans away from the fight, somebody behind him may just shove him right back into it without even knowing exactly what he meant to do. Or they know perfectly well and hate it. Either way, he does not get a clear lane backward. He gets resistance from the rear and exposure from the front at the same time. That is where the shouting starts. Not grand speeches, just rough, immediate noise. Hold. Stay there. Push. Sometimes a curse right into the side of his helmet. The men next to him need him where he is because their own edge depends on his shield staying put. And that makes things personal in a hurry. It is no longer only about one frightened man. The moment he wavers, the 2 or 3 men touching him have a direct problem. They may dig in harder, bump him with their shield, grab at him, or simply crush inward to stop the gap from opening. If he tries to slide sideways to get out, he causes another problem. Shield walls depend on edges covering edges. He moves a foot the wrong way, and there is a seam where there was not one before. The man beside him suddenly has to cover more than he was covering a second ago. So that neighbor reacts on instinct. He lunges inward. He tilts his shield. He crowds the wavering man instead of letting him pass. Not out of kindness and not even out of discipline in some polished sense. Just because if that opening stays open, he is the next one in trouble. That means escape does not look like one man slipping neatly away. It looks like a jam. One man twisting, another trying to plug the hole, somebody behind pressing forward, shields catching on each other, feet getting crossed, everybody annoyed and alarmed in the same narrow space. Now say the line loosens enough that he does get a step back. That does not solve much. He is retreating onto ground he can barely see. He cannot just turn around and sprint, because he still needs to keep some cover up while moving away. So he has to backpedal or shuffle. And the ground behind a fighting line is rarely clean. Grass is torn up. Dirt is churned loose. Mud forms where feet have been grinding. Things are lying around where nobody wanted them. Dropped spears, broken shafts, shields, men crouched or fallen, wounded men trying to crawl out of the way and not always managing ID. He is trying to feel all of that with his heels while still listening for movement in front. One bad step is enough. His foot lands on a shield rim, or in slick mud, or against a body he did not know was there. Suddenly the retreat is not a retreat anymore. It is a stumble. And one stumble is everybody else's problem immediately. If he pitches backward, he yanks on the space around him. The man beside him loses the overlap he was counting on. The man behind him gets his legs tangled. Somebody has to choose between helping him, stepping around him, or ignoring him and holding their own place. That is why men nearby had every reason to stop a bad retreat before it developed. A comrade trying to leave was not just removing himself. He was changing the shape of the wall under everyone else's hands. In a packed line, personal decisions spread sideways very fast. There was, in theory, a cleaner way to get out. If a group withdrew together slowly, shields still up, steps matched, gaps watched, then men could come off the pressure without exposing each other all at once. But that requires people moving at the same moment for the same reason. That is harder than it sounds when helmets cut down what you can see, and the noise makes every order patchy. Men hear bits of things. They react to what is right in front of them. One is bracing, one is stepping, one is still pushing, one has already lost his footing. What should be a tidy backward movement turns into small local decisions. And local decisions do not line up well under pressure. One man takes a step back too early, and the neighbor is still forward. Another keeps his shield high while the next man lowers his to regain balance. Somebody behind thinks the front wants more push and drives in harder right when the front needs room to disengage. So the line starts to lose shape in patches, not all at once. A section bends. Another section bunches up. Somewhere else, two men get separated by half a body width, which is enough to invite trouble. There is no clean moment where everyone suddenly has freedom to run. In fact, it often gets worse right there. Once the wall is no longer firm, it does not open into clear lanes. It turns into knots of men, loose shields underfoot, bodies trying to squeeze past each other in different directions. You are not trapped by order anymore. You are trapped by disorder. The center is bad for this. Men on the edges at least have one side with a little more possibility. In the middle, there are bodies on both sides, pressure behind, danger ahead, and confusion all around the feet. A man can want out more than ever and still find there is nowhere obvious to put the next step. And when parts of the line begin giving way, that is also when people stop moving predictably. A man in front may suddenly fall back into you. Another may cut across your path. A dropped shield that was harmless a moment ago becomes something three men trip over in quick succession. At that stage, turning your back fully is its own gamble. Maybe you get a few strides. Maybe you run straight into men from your own side, recoiling from another break in the line. Maybe your ankle catches in churned ground because you never got a good look at where you were going. So a lot of survival in that moment comes down to ugly little habits instead of any clean escape. Keeping the shield half up while backing. Short steps instead of long ones. Staying attached to a couple of familiar men because a small cluster is better than being alone. Looking for the edge, not a heroic path through the middle. Some men would not even be trying to run far at first. They would just be trying to get out of the first crush without falling. Just one step into a little less pressure. Then, another. Then, trying not to lose their weapon. Then trying not to trip over somebody who had already gone down. And all the while the people around them are making the same cramped calculations. Who is still holding? Who is slipping? Which gap is opening? Is that man backing in order or is he gone? Nobody has time to settle it. They just shove, brace, sidestep, and try to keep their own feet. That is why escaping a shield wall was so hard. Not because nobody wanted to run, and not because the idea never occurred to them. It was hard because the line took away the room, the timing, and the body position needed to make running work in the first place. By the time a man tried to leave, he was already late, already exposed, and usually still caught in other people's hands, shields, and footing. Then, if the wall started to come apart, that did not hand him a clear exit either. It handed him a mess. Men bunching, shields dropping, ground turning treacherous, and everybody trying to get through the same few scraps of space at once. If he was near an edge, he might have some chance. If he was deep in the crush, the next problem was already on him before he finished dealing with the last one.